for all the folks who have joined in from various parts of Asia. Really, really happy to be here with all of you today. So while the topic of today is how to really, become a speaker and how do you really, some tips that between me and Anne, we would be sharing on successful conference talk proposals. Just wanted to give you all some context, right? So, Women Who Code as an organization is a not-for-profit organization which has this broad mission of, empowering diverse women to really succeed in technology careers. And the vision has been to look at, who have been historically excluded. You can think of many names, right? I mean, if you close your eyes, I'm sure you can think of sometimes ourselves or some of our colleagues whom we think were excluded, maybe sometimes unconsciously, sometimes intentionally, whatever. But then the intent through this group is to look at how can we make all these diverse and then historically excluded groups more successful. And I think, Anne and I, as leaders in Women Who Code for Japan and India respectively, have, take a lot of pride in doing this. And we have a huge volunteering community, which really helps us with doing all that we can do towards this vision and mission. And of course, Sapphire is there from the global team too. We can move to the next slide. Yeah, and we have a very strict and fair code of conduct. Of course, the intent is to include everyone. To my earlier point of looking at historically excluded people, women representation, and all that. So, by the name of it, Women Who Code doesn't really mean that only women can be a part of it, right? So anyone who advocates for representation of more women absolutely can be a part of this group. And yes, there is no discrimination basis, whatever that we can think of from a perspective, sexual orientation, gender, etc., etc. Yeah, there is a question from Christine. Absolutely, the recording would be shared, and please stay safe. If there are weather issues, please take care. Yeah, we can move on. So the context about this whole thing on how can you become a great speaker, etc., is we have our flagship event coming up on October 7th. It is Women Who Code CONNECT Asia. Some of you all who have been in the past active on Women Who Code would realize that this is something that we have been doing many years, and sometimes it has been virtual, sometimes it has been in person, but this is not anything new, right? So really look forward to all your participation in CONNECT Asia. And the timings are in Japan Standard Time and India Standard Time for all of you to just quickly take a look. So I think there are many reasons why you would want to be a speaker, right? But I'll just pick one. All of us have our day jobs, and maybe some of us are trying to get into a day job now, right? But in that environment, usually you always see that as a risk if you want to pick up a new topic and speak, right? So, you would always think like, hey, what would my manager think if I, spoke something wrong? Or what would my peers think if I did something wrong as part of picking up a topic and speaking? But then Women Who Code and, other such forums offer you that risk-free environment, right? Where you can really be yourself, challenge yourself, and then pick up something new and get started, in terms of whatever you want to speak on. So it's the first step in my mind where you can be a change maker, you can start building. And whenever you try to help someone, believe me, you're also helping yourself, right? By sharing knowledge, by, gaining that confidence as a speaker, and then also adding to your own resume saying, hey, you have been able to do this on your own, attend, and then, also speak in various conferences, etc. So I think there is a lot of upside in, being a speaker in many of these events. We can go to the next one. So at the end of today, we will look at 2-3 things, right? How do you really, the why part I hopefully have covered, and between me and Anne, we will also look at the how part, right? As to how do you really come up with a good proposal title. Today's whole meeting is about, call for proposals for this CONNECT Asia event that is going to happen on October 7th. So we will share some useful information which you can take it ahead to really submit your idea, proposal, the title, description, and all that. Okay, so I think this is the time to be interactive. Why are you interested in becoming a conference speaker? Any ideas that you all want to share on the chat? I don't see anything coming in, but while you all frame your thoughts on why do you want to do this, maybe we can keep going and then relook at whatever comes on chat in a bit. Great. I see, from Priyadarshini, to show my expertise on a particular technology, I want to motivate and share experience. So I want to conduct workshops and learnings with younger women. I think all of you have shared those 3-4 why part of it that we discussed in the earlier slide, right? I want to be a change maker. I want to share new technology. I just want to, support more women. And I see this passionate about supporting women. Absolutely great, great initial thoughts. These are the reasons why all of us want such forums to really be speaking, right? And great to have a very engaged audience today. We can go to the next one. So while we said, yes, Women Who Code is one forum where you can, find a lot of speaking opportunities. The truth is today, if all of us take that interest to find out about speaking opportunities, there are many, right? Some could be within our own organization. We can keep going to the next slide. Some could be within our own organization, or, some could be, just by, looking at what are those organizations which are really providing such speaking opportunities, a simple Google search, right? And then, of course, joining a Women Who Code network is the easiest way. So you just do a Google search for Women Who Code, with the local city name where you want to be associated with, and you can sign up to be a part of the local chapter. And the good part is that you also get all the global event related opportunities as a feed in your meetup page. We can keep going. So now let's start looking at how do you really come out with a proposal idea, right? So all of you have shared what is the kind of motivation that you all have to, come up and, really speak to a forum. We can go ahead and look at what are those considerations. Yeah, I love this one. Imposter syndrome, right? So many times, I think mostly I've seen that women go through this, but not necessarily. There are other folks too who go through this, right? So imposter syndrome, if you really have to define it, is you always feel that you don't deserve the current role that you are in, you don't deserve the current position that you're in, and then you will be exposed and somebody will find out that you're an imposter, right? So this just goes on to say that many times we think that maybe we are not adding value, maybe we don't have enough expertise, maybe we really need to do a lot more work before we can start sharing our knowledge and start becoming a speaker. But the truth is, none of this is really true, right? All these are myths, because each one of us has those unique opportunities, unique experiences, and unique knowledge that only I can bring to the table. So at whatever position I mean, if I have to wait to become the biggest expert on any field and only then speak, chances are that I might never speak, right? So it's not about that. It's about sharing unique expertise, unique perspectives on any topic, and then find out some speaking opportunities and thereby build our own confidence in this whole technology world. So I think in order to be able to submit a good proposal, we need to understand what is a talk proposal, right? So talk proposal could be, an opportunity to share your expertise or experience, and then it will include a talk title and description. And then, like I said, CFP is something that you will always hear. CFP stands for call for proposals. And in fact, this was the first question that I had too, because I'm kind of new to this acronym, but Sapphire kind of clarified what it is, and really look forward to many such call for proposals. And of course, we need to ensure that the topic that we pick, the title, the description, bio, headshot, all these are like crystal clear whenever we are trying to submit a proposal, right? That's how we ensure that we get a slot during that event. So, easiest way to do this is, hey, have you done this before? If there is a topic that you have, maybe already spoken on in some of the other local forums, or, in your own organization, maybe that's easy, right? You just do it again. Or have you taught something to someone in your organization, some colleague, that they found it really useful and they wanted you to, and maybe you wanted to spread the goodness around, right? So that could be the second one. And then the third is, have you written something on LinkedIn or any other blog? You could convert those thoughts, which you have written down, you have penned down, into something that you can talk about in this Connect Asia forum. So like I said, it's something which should be close to your heart, something that only you can do, something that you bring to the table, which are your unique experiences. So think about what you've accomplished. Have you learned a new skill, which can be quite intimidating sometimes, right? And have you learned it? And then do you want to share the journey of how you went about learning that and then succeeding at it, right? Or have you accomplished something in your professional space that you really want to share? Because there is a lot to learn, and it need not just be something, some accomplishment, some learning from failure, right? So what did you learn? How did you go about it? And then how did you turn it around and succeed? These are the things, these are the stories that everyone wants to hear. And it's very important to look at what do you want to achieve, right? By, giving your talk. Are you trying to explain a concept? Are you, trying for the audience to do something hands-on, or is it just about inspiring the audience to think differently? So I think the objective of what you want to accomplish is very, very important. And that's when, once you're clear, you will start, putting up a good proposal. So I think it has been a bit of a monologue. I've been talking all along. And do you want to add something on? So whatever I've shared so far.
Let's see. I'm not muted, am I? Yeah, I think that's been great. I mean, sorry, I realized we probably shouldn't have made these bullet points like trickle in. So sometimes there's like a little extra. But, yeah, like, I feel like everyone has a story to tell. Everyone has a unique perspective. And I often like to take something small that I work on. I start with like an internal talk or a local event, and then I'll try for like a medium-sized conference, and then maybe an international conference. So I definitely recommend, build off of past successes, start with a lightning talk or something, and then you can beef it up, or find things that are multi-purpose. Like, I'm going to submit to Women Who Code Connect Asia, and I'm taking something that I'm working on at work that's helping me achieve a work goal, and also trying to turn it into this. So if you can, reuse stuff or solve multiple problems at one time, definitely do that.
Yeah, and on the chat, there is a link, right? For all of you who want to submit your proposal, that is the link. And that takes you to a very simple set of questions that you would need to answer to really submit your proposal. Yeah, we can go to the next slide. Yeah, and I think this is true for every, talk, right? Who is the audience? What would their interests be? And why do they need to know this? How do you really connect with the audience, right? So that's super important. So I'm sure all of you will give that a thought first. And I think Anne kind of covered a bit of this, right? So lightning talk is something a little more lightweight, where, it's a relatively smaller talk. And then if you really want to spend more time to demonstrate a new technology or a technique through live examples, then, it's a full talk, right? And then if you really want the audience to learn something by doing something hands-on, etc., then it kind of becomes a workshop. And then a keynote or a panel discussion is where you inspire the audience think differently. And then, engaging and connecting with them would be a panel session or a networking session. So, start small, maybe, incrementally you can look at how you build your confidence, or, there is no established way, right? If you really think you're ready, you could just jump in. And then if you have a meaty proposal that you want to really bring in, absolutely, go for the other formats too, whether it's a full talk or a keynote or a panel, whatever you think. Yeah, and of course, these are the hygiene aspects, right? The topic requests, of course, it should be relevant. This is a tech world. Women Who Code stands for representation of women, but having said that, it is in the tech world and the topics have to be relevant to that. And the proposal length and requirements, it should be, interesting, accurate, and of course, free of errors. And, have all the bios, headshots, etc. in the right way. And I'm really not sure where I hand it over to you. Please do jump in if I keep talking.
Sure. I'm going to add to for irrelevant topics, like avoid anything that's too salesy. It's totally fine to talk about your company and it's great if it's mutually beneficial. But if you're overly pushing a product or something, or it doesn't have a general use to the audience that is just sharing information, it might not be the right fit. There might be other venues. You will be a good steward of your company and organization by just sharing cool stuff you do as an engineer. That will often inspire you and tell a better story. So yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
you can maybe pick it up from here, Anne, if you think that makes sense.
Sure, it sounds good. So things to avoid in our talk, don't just repeat stuff that's been done before. I know things like ChatGPT are really popular right now, but they might not be likely to produce original ideas. That is using that is probably going to just repeat or copy something someone else has done. So do try to bring your own voice, your own thing to it. So yeah, just put your own lens on it. It's not of course people have talked about JavaScript before, but is there an angle that you bring a new light to it that will help people see it in a fresh way? Make sure you're creating something unique to you. Put your own lens on it. If you have a quirky sense of humor, bring that in. If you want to do storytelling in a certain way, if you want to bring in your own culture, just share your story. Avoid keeping sometimes when I do a call for presentations in smaller tech groups, I get one sentence, and then it's a little hard to know what the speaker is going to say. And so make sure you explain the basics. If you don't explain what it's going to be about or what the audience will learn, it's very hard for the committee to say, we trust this person is going to be able to put together a presentation. Do make sure, avoid a poorly written description that's full of errors, that's not edited, that has too many words and is hard to read or too short. It's really a good idea to always get a friend to proofread. And if you don't have a friend, just ask in any of the Women Who Code Slack channels. Someone will be happy to help you before you submit it. If you're not a native English speaker, that's okay too. Just ask someone who's a native speaker to just review it. And honestly, really a lot of the acceptance is just who asked for help. The first times I started speaking at conferences, senior and staff level engineers in my company just were like, hey, you should take that thing and submit it to this international conference. And then because they pushed me, I got accepted. It was really good. So the peer review, just make sure you get a peer review because the community wants to help you. And I know Asia is very broad and there's a lot of people that are native English speakers. There's people that are English as a second language. We want to make sure we are getting voices from all around APAC. So if you're not a native, even though this conference is mostly going to be held in English, we think your ideas matter. If you speak with a different accent, your ideas still matter. If you're not a perfect speaker, it doesn't matter. Your ideas still matter. Lots of the internet and tech was created by people from all around the world. In fact, I had a former colleague from Korea who did a lightning talk at an international conference as a way to challenge himself to be a better English speaker. And we all just thought it was superb that he put himself out there and grew in such a brave way. So lightning talks are great if you're a first-time speaker or if you're just testing the waters. But also, you know, don't be afraid to be bold and go for a longer talk, especially if you have an idea that you want to dive into. It's always helpful to ask native English speakers to review submissions. Again, ask in the Women Who Code Slack groups or community, because lots of people are happy to help. You can ask someone to listen to your practice talk. You can record a video of yourself. This is just a good idea for native speakers too. Record a video and listen back to yourself. Listen to the number of times you say or or pause, or if you rush the speak and speak too fast. So, you'll find volunteers that want to help you succeed. Brainstorm, help, and resources. So brainstorming proposals, there's a YouTube channel so you can get inspiration and see what's done in the past. There's a resources page, including past CFP workshops here at CFP-resources. You can join the Women Who Code Slack for support in our digital community. And you can work out to the past Women Who Code speakers or network with members of our community on LinkedIn for support and ideas. Next, we're going to go into, we're going to share the slides. We'll do our best to share the slides. Let me talk with Sapphire about that. I think this will be put on YouTube later, and we'll definitely share it in the Women Who Code Slack group. But yeah, if we can get those slides, that would be ideal. We'll do my best. So writing the title. So now that you've decided you have something to say, what you want to accomplish with your talk, your audience, your format.
I think on the chat, there was a request to go back to the previous slide once, I guess.
Oh, sure. The last slide. Oh, did I miss a slide? Okay, I'm sorry. Is this the one you want to see? The one before that. I think I'm clicking back, and I meant to do this one. This one, okay. Yeah, this one, let me give people a minute to note these links. Yeah. Saraswathi, would you actually be able to put these links in the chat as well? While I'm presenting?
Do that.
Yeah. Yep. If I open another tab, then I close this. So
yeah, got you.
Thank you. Okay, great. Thanks for bearing with our technical difficulties. So the title, you've decided you've got something to say, you know the who, what, when, where, why. It's a good fit, and you can follow the instructions. Let's write that title. So first impressions matter. Your reviewer is going to see your title first. I'm pretty sure we're hiding names and other things. We're mostly just focusing on the what rather than the person, because so they should see the talk title as the first thing and be judging that idea. So we want that to be strong. We want to use exciting language, and we want to use the right number of words so we don't overwhelm people. It's just a title. It's not the full speech. So about 5 to 10 words in length. It's very helpful to describe what you're going to discuss or teach. And, maybe show a little bit about what participants will learn. Think about the keywords and language carefully to help them understand and what it sets apart from other talks. They want to see your unique approach. Make sure it's accurate and free of errors. Bonus points, be fun, playful, or clever. So here's some successful talk titles. Let's get fired up. Getting started with Firebase, Firestore. The making of a mentor. Elevate your connections and career by helping others. Secure but accessible. Building sites your users can actually use. 13 tips to write code like a Swiftie. How to get out of tutorial hell and start building something. So one piece of advice is to start with a verb. So here's some examples. Because the verbs are very action oriented, so it's dynamic, it gets people feeling like we're going to build something. So improving communication for the introverted engineer, mitigating biased algorithms in the real world, developing emotionally intelligent teams in tech. Another idea is you can do a 2-part, I think this feel like popular in video games, like a sequel or something. Anyway, so maybe you tell it in 2 parts. So building more inclusive Android apps, animation and reduced movement, typesetting in CSS, using typography to enhance your design, building your career like a product manager's take. Another tip is to make it fun. You can use plays on words, you can use alliteration where we're using the same vowel sounds, or the same consonant sounds, like, yeah, fun with feature flags is that, but avoid clickbait or anything that feels empty. We don't want like the buzzword soup. We're not going to do like generative AI for drone VR, just where they sometimes have these like word salads. Avoid that, stick to what you're actually talking about or something that makes sense. But some examples of, fun with feature flags. So that's some nice alliteration. Crash course in SSH and digging ourselves out of code debt. Make it actionable. So mistakes and pitfalls to avoid. So takeaways your readers can learn and start implementing. What they don't tell you about tech interviews. This really draws the you're going to try to pull people in. They're going to be in, they maybe come for the conference, but why are they going to come to your talk? Why should they, of all the things they could go to at the same time, why should they go to your event? So do's and don'ts of professional networking. That gets your attention. Mistakes to avoid as an AI practitioner in industry. So we're going to list a couple here, and you can put in chat if you think, you just put the number and then what you'd retitle it. How could we improve Python fundamentals? How could we improve that? Or how could we improve career advice for women in tech? Number 3, machine learning tools to help you finish your project without wasting any more time, so your boss will be impressed and promote you.
That was quite a lot. I'm sure our group will come up with something very interesting.
I said it in a way to highlight that it's too much.
I know.
It's not a bad idea. It just needs to be structured.
Let's have fun. And I like Python. Came up with. Let's have fun with Python instead of Python fundamentals. I think that's a great way to improve the title.
Let's learn Python fundamentals. Keeping up with the Kardashians. So yeah, some people say they like 4.
Yeah, I kind of like that too.
I think one thing with 4 and 5 is I don't know what they're about. And I like, in the words of the podcaster, John Hodgman, he says, specificity is the soul of narrative. And so sometimes you could say keeping up with the Kardashians, and then put a second part of like 5 trends in modern code development. So if it's just about, imagine the longest talk at our event is about 35 minutes. Or maybe a workshop or a panel could be up to an hour or so. Maybe I need to go back, but we were not going to cover all of software engineering in 35 minutes. I don't care who you are or how fast you talk. Python fundamentals 2 is like, it's too broad. So first Slither's a Pythonite, that's really cute. But yeah, maybe it's just talk about Python fundamentals, 10 places to get started, make it somehow more specific, and that will make it feel more actionable or useful rather than, we're going to cover an entire textbook in 35 minutes. That sounds exhausting. So I think specificity is good. So if maybe, or career advice for women in tech also, it's too broad. So bringing it down to like career advice for women in tech who want to get to the next level, or career advice for, you know, getting to staff level, or career advice for your first year in tech. Top 5 career advice. Yeah, if you can just narrow it down somehow so that it feels focused, it feels stronger. Any other, let's see. I mean, there's some really great puns in here. I love the creativity. Yeah. Slither like that. Great. Well, thanks for those ideas. Next part, once you've got a cool title, is let's write the description. This is where you can get wordy and lengthy. So the second thing they're going to see is your title. And you can have a few sentences here to talk. It's good to talk about what you're going to cover, who your audience is. Again, be specific. Don't just say my audience is for women who code. What level? Is this for early career people? Is this for senior people? Is this for strictly coding people? Or will quality engineers, quality assurance benefit too? Is this for people who prefer front end? Is this more data science focused? Or is this about the collaboration between cross-functional teams or UX designers and product managers? You know, there's a whole world. So if you specify your audience, that can help draw people in. Or like, oh yeah, I'm in that role, or I want to grow into that role. So maybe I'll go to this talk. Telling people what they'll learn, that's a really good motivator too, because then it's kind of sets up a reward. People know like what the value they'll get out of the presentation. Like, come in and learn these 5 great skills that you can apply towards a major cloud certification. So the length, about 50 to 100 words. Follow the specific requirements of the call for proposals. It will usually say, we want to answer the question, so what? Or why should someone learn or know this? For example, go into if it's solving a problem or an issue, and be clear and concise. So what you're covering and what they'll be able to do after coming to your talk. And again, let's proofread, ask friends for proofreading, be accurate and free of errors. Because this is a global conference and we want to be as polished as we can. Here's a checklist. Does the description match the talk title? Pretty important. Does the audience know what problem or issue I'm helping them solve? Did I cover the key topics I will discuss in my talk? Do I talk about the learning level or audience? Do they know what they'll be able to do or learn after coming? And does it follow any formatting guidelines, or is it free of errors? Here's a sample description where the title is a dev bootcamp right for me. This is a 15-minute career lightning talk on the main stage. And it says, dev bootcamps have become popular in recent years as a faster, more affordable path into tech. But how do you know if one is right for you? Join Chris Bellinger, head of community at Codeco, a global online mobile dev learning platform that runs iOS and Android bootcamps. Discover the benefits of participating in a bootcamp, what really happens during a dev bootcamp, and what your career options are after completing a bootcamp. So let's share in the chat what this proposal is doing well. How many women do we estimate will attend? That's a good question. I don't know with the Connect Asia. I mean, I think it's going to be largely women, but I don't know, because we'd have to look up on stats for private. We haven't done a Connect Asia before. I mean, I think it would be in the thousands, setting expectations. I would expect in the thousands at the conference, but an individual panel, in hop-in people, not everyone is in every room. Yeah.
And also it will be all members and women who code, not necessarily women, right? So just wanted to clarify
all our events are open to all genders, and generally the Women Who Code Connect Asia is recorded on YouTube for all time. However, we have a strict code of conduct. It's a very warm and supportive place. We don't tolerate mean-spirited questions or any sort of stuff like that might happen in other environments. So yeah. Anyway, anyone want to talk about, is a dev bootcamp right for me? Yeah, key points. I think it asks a really good question that engages with the audience. It shows the topics. Yeah, I know some people might have to leave. We're going over time because we got a late start, but we will be sharing the recording. I'm hoping it will be on YouTube. I will coordinate with Global as much as possible to get that out as soon as possible, and we'll try to share it within the Slack communities. But we're going to continue. I know we just know some people have to drop. One thing I like about this talk too is this person clearly works for a company that sells boot camps and things. However, they make a talk that is both related to their work and it's just generally appealing to an audience. So it's not overly promotional. At the same time, they do tie into what their work, and so I think they struck a really good balance here. It's not like, is Codeco good for me? They're talking more broadly about all boot camps, and they might share very important insights from the place that they work, but I think they strike a really good balance. Let's go on to another one. Building more inclusive Android apps, animation and reduced movement. This is a 35-minute technical talk on the mobile stage. Not all users enjoy animations. Different types of movement and animations can be distracting or cause symptoms such as nausea or dizziness. Many users survive in our animated digital world by modifying the operating system level setting to reduce animations. Join this session for a discussion on creating inclusive native Android apps to gain an understanding of potential problems that animations might cause for some users. Learn how to develop more inclusively and respect the animation setting in native Android apps. All right, share and chat, share and chat what this proposal is doing well. And I will share again the Slack invite link. Or Saraswathi, actually, can you get that? Can you invite people to the Women Who Code Slack?
I have already shared that.
You already shared it? Okay, yeah, scroll back and you can get it. Very specific, yeah. Accepting the ground reality. Yeah. Shows the problem that will be addressed. Definitely. I like too that it highlights something that a marginalized community is experiencing that we might not be immediately aware of, and it kind of broadens our view and makes us better developers by bringing awareness to a really important accessibility issue. I mean, you might think, oh, I made this really cool animation, I love it, and then it gets us in it's direct, but you know, it's not judgmental. It just is kind of a fact of like, hey, some people might not love the dancing bear dancing, you know, what was it? Snapchat had that like dancing hot dog or something. So, you know, there's lots of silly stuff, but it's not for all users. Cool. All right, so applying to speak, give it a try. We have Connect Asia coming up, and I forgot to update this. I updated for Asia, but this image still says, okay, let me go back a few more slides. The deadline is August 20th. It is, well, we'll share it at the end. But yeah, sorry, the image is like the wrong one. This is the Dev Summit. Connect Asia, it should be August 20th, and the event is on October 7th, I'm pretty sure. And
that is correct.
Yeah. Hard to think of topics to speak about for beginners. Let's talk about that more at the end, because beginners actually do have things to say. We are looking for diverse speakers to share their technical expertise and groups traditionally underrepresented in technology to apply. We're looking for both first-time and experienced speakers. So we have a supportive team to help you through the CFP process. So if you're a beginner, I mean, one of the things that could look like is you can share a little bit about what your journey is like. Because, you know, I know someone in Tokyo that went to a coding boot camp after being a professional ballerina. And so you still come in with an experience. You could talk about what it's like to transition into tech. You could talk about these new things you're experiencing. Like maybe you could teach about, if you're just starting to learn data structures or something, you could use metaphors from other parts of your life, or just find a way to share how I got my first steps in coding and what I would recommend to other people who are starting this for the first time. So
I'm sorry to interrupt. I have to jump on to another meeting.
Sure.
It has been a talking to this group, and I'll have to really get into another meeting now.
Sure.
But look forward to participation from all those who have joined today. Thank you so much, and Anne will conclude in a bit.
Thank you, Saraswathi. Thanks for making time today.
Great to partner with you.
Cool. So there's different lengths of talks too. And there's a variety of topics: blockchain, data science, Python, etc. Yeah. So we'll move into questions and answers now. Doing nails to coding. That's so cool. Obviously, doing nails is a lot of work. So yeah. Cool. Any other questions? Comments? And I think too, which is beginner thinking ideas, if you can get a whiteboard and just brainstorm ideas too, sometimes that's a great way to just think, or get a notebook and just write down even if things you might feel like it's silly, just write it down. And then maybe get a friend. I went out for drinks the other night and I was just telling my friend about things I thought about tech. And sometimes if you just socialize a little bit and let your mind be creative, you can come up with all sorts of ideas. So you don't have to submit the PowerPoint or any slide deck. The call for proposals is just a description of your intent on what you talk about. And then when you present, you will need to make some sort of slide deck to present. It doesn't have to be PowerPoint. You could use Google Slides. You could use other tools. I like to use Canva quite a bit. Yeah. Cool. Do you have to have success to be able to speak? No, but I think you do have to have a growth mindset. So I think even sometimes if you like, what I learned from, we can learn a lot from failure. So as long as you have the mindset of growing and recovering from that, I think you can share. I mean, I got into public speaking when I was 14, and I was so quiet that people asked me in middle school if I was mute. People were not necessarily nice. It was not a nice question, but I'm just saying you can go into public speaking even if you're deathly afraid of it. And even if your first time you're shaking so much, the paper is, I just kind of immersion therapied myself my way through it, but I wasn't a great speaker right away. And again, there are people who are much better speakers than me, but you will improve by putting yourself out there. And Women Who Code is a much friendlier environment. So please give it a shot. Can I apply as a public speaking coach who supports women in tech with public speaking? Yeah, of course. You can apply about, I mean, we would love a talk about how to become a better public speaker. That would be fun. We definitely accept things related to career development. So anything that helps. Yeah, the topics again, let me back up into, we accept both like tech topics, but we also accept things on career development. Let me see. We shouldn't have done these. I've learned from that I don't like when the bullets come one by one. This is my own fault. Let's go back to the code. Connect Asia. Okay, we didn't exactly list, but the topics, think of our main tracks. We do front end, mobile, cloud, emerging tech like blockchain, AI, VR. anything related to like infrastructure. A lot of our members are actually in design, and as people get further in their career, working across different functionalities, like working well with product, working well with design, working well with quality. These are all extremely valuable for developers. People leadership and things, these are helpful things. So yeah, a range of topics, and especially career development, job hunting. Actually, a recent thing too, dealing with layoffs. There's been a lot of tech layoffs, and helping people recover and be resilient in tough times is a really important topic right now. Is there a Connect Africa anytime soon? Not that I know of, but I would really love it if we'd have something like that. I know we have some networks in Lagos and other places. Yeah. Let's see. How do you develop knowledge or experiences worth talking? Do you have to work with bleeding edge technologies, or do you learn by sticking with your passion projects? I don't think bleeding edge is necessarily always the best present. It can be a good presentation, and some people really like that, but often very reliable software is built with the long-term support version. You know, if you want to build robust software, there's a balance. So you don't have to be on the, you know, I feel like JavaScript always has so much. JavaScript is just like, we always have the latest, newest thing, and you're always out of date. Not really. There's just so much happening in the JavaScript world that you always feel out of date. And I've sort of just at this point, I just laugh and accept it. Just share something that you got good at. A lot of the fundamentals of computer science are not changing. A lot of the underlying principles date back to Ada Lovelace and Alan Turing. They're just information. They're just mathematics. So while there's new stuff like blockchain and AR and ChatGPT, there's also just math, good science, and good, honestly, teamwork and collaboration. So there's always things that are going to stand the test of time. Slack link isn't working. Can we share the email instead? I'm sorry, there's not an email for, Slack, so I'm not sure how to resolve that. Yeah. Yeah, try this link. There's a new link. Can we try this new link and see if that works? Yeah. Time allotted to the speaker. Again, when you go to fill out the CFP, it will show. I can go again to the slide with the times here. But generally the lightning talks are pretty short. Okay, let me just exit out of this and go to the view where I can quickly go through these. We are looking for, okay, there's some topics here listed, and then where was the link? Here, okay, the talk format. Yeah, it's going to be on the CFP page here, where let me just copy this. I'll just pull it up here, but it should actually say the specifics. And for if you apply for other events too, because again, Women Who Code's a great place to apply, but there might be something for your particular stack or community. So it will say more about like what a successful proposal is. Okay, we'll just skip that for now. And you know, there will be a bio. Okay, category of the talk. So we'll pick here like what category, which format. So here we'll say, okay, let's skip that. I'm trying to not fill in my address. So lightning talk is 15 minutes plus a question and answer. Standard talk is 35 minutes. And a workshop is 50 minutes. So a workshop, again, is going to be more of a code demo. It tends to work well if you have like a sandbox environment where people can code online. where people can do a demo and follow along. Having led some workshops in person, there is a chance that people will get lost or fall behind. So do try to keep it simple, but it can be really valuable because people will come out with hands-on experience. So when it's done well, it can be really good. Yeah, more detail about the presentation and formats. And yeah, okay, that's the Typeform one. I guess this one here is explaining more about Connect Asia and what we're looking for. Again, you'll see some of the statements are exactly the same in this talk. And yeah, speaker experience. Let's see. Yeah. So is that good? I'll have time for maybe one more question and then we're gonna wrap up. But otherwise, thanks for attending and thanks for bearing with our technical difficulties. Hope to see lots of your applications. All right, take care. Otsukare, everyone. Have a good evening. I'm in Japanese for thanks for the hard work.